Okay, sir. So shall I start?
Yes, sir, for sure.
I think I'm getting some double noise. Just
Actually, you have to mute one of your device, sir, because
Hmm.
both are on.
Just a minute. Hello, sir. Harsh, sir.
Huh, sir.
Now, is it visible, the
Yes,
PPT?
sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
So extremely sorry, first of all, and apologies from my side
No
that
issues, sir. No issues.
I couldn't join the session in time. Actually, in fact, I tried my level best to join it by 2:45 because I was worrying about the technical glitches at my side. At the outset, I am very much thankful to the Mahatma Education Society's Mahatma Knight Degree College, Chembur, Principal Jarekar sir, and my student and friend Shukla sir, Professor Pawar sir, and the entire organizing committee for starting this 10 days virtual research methodology workshop sponsored by ICSSR WRC. Uh, it's always being researcher. We always have some questions in our mind. Should be a mathematical kind of research, or the research should be full of empirical, analytical, or empirical analysis of the research problem or what. And in the early stages or in the first few days, it might have happened that the meaning of research or the types of research uh, and research methodology kinds of subtopics might have done in the this research methodology workshop. The topic which is given to me by the organizer is nothing but ethics in social science research and the politics of research. A very interesting part as far as ethics in social science research is concerned and the politics of research is concerned. Uh, as all of us are faculties, as all of us are researchers, and at the time of teaching the subject, specifically the social science subject in the class, we are instructing our students whether the research should have good outcome, a research should have good methodology, a research should have the society point of view very much useful or what. And by keeping in mind all these particular objectives or objects, we usually used to think, yes, we have to have or we have to follow the ethical guidelines in the social science research. There are different regulatory bodies which have come up with the uh, controlling over malpractices in the research field as well. And most of the times in the modern era, what is happening is nothing but Sometimes it is a kind of collaborative research. And in the name of collaborative research, suppose if there are two researchers up there, that one researcher is asking that I'll put your name, that in my research paper, you can put my name in your research paper. And these kind of, we can say, kind of ethical misconduct is there in the research field as well. But why this is happening? What are the reasons? What are the causes behind all these particular uh, ethical misconduct and all? So I try my level best to bring 7 important aspects of ethics in social science research, and how far being social scientist or social science researcher we should follow all these particular guidelines is very, very important one. As far as developing nation like India is concerned, we have a very strong research which is going on in the country, specifically through IITs, through IIMs, or the Institute of National Importance, and so on. But at the same time, there are some institutes, there are some universities which are also bringing a good research, and that research also to be brought at the national platform or at the international platform. But until and unless these particular research are not available in the published form, not available in the public domain, we won't be able to access these research activities. So here the role of publication, here the role of plagiarism starts, or here the role of plagiarism comes. So when we are talking about ethics in social sciences, whether the research is really outcome-based research, whether the research is really helpful to the society, the research is really bringing out certain changes in the society, or socio-economic changes in the economy, or all over the world. These all questions, being researcher, we must keep in our mind. Otherwise, merely publishing a paper in a national or international journal, or uh, any kind of publication won't have the weightage as far as its applicability is concerned. So I would like to continue. I'd like to start my PPT with the meaning, first of all, social science research. That in the picture itself, it is been given what exactly the social research, or what exactly the social science research. It is nothing but social science research. It is seeking to understand how and why the human behavior is to be done as well. Or the two questions are supposed to be answered. And these two questions are nothing but how and why. So why human behavior is differently available at different particular time. And at the same time, though this particular reference we can have with psychological research, but simultaneously we can also apply for the other subjects like economics, the other subjects like sociology, or the political science, and so on. There are different branches are available as far as social science research is concerned. It might be the use or application of research in history, the archaeology department or archaeology section, or economics, or we can have the development studies, or the education, the kind of branches to be explored through criminology, the translation studies, the media studies, at the same time philosophical research, international relations, a part of linguistics, cultural studies, at the same time psychological research are some of the examples as far as the branches of social science research is concerned. Now, when we are talking about this all social science research, what exactly scientific method to be followed as far as social science research is concerned? So we have the different aspects of social science research. We can start with like any one angle of social science research, specifically the scientific method to be initiated uh, through first of all choosing the research area or the research topic, the title, and specifically while choosing the title, it has to be appropriate title which should justify the research as well. But most of the time, what is happening, the title which has been chosen may not be having proper justification as far as the research outcomes are concerned, as far as the research questions are concerned. Few months back, I received one uh, PhD thesis from South African region, that is Northwest University, South Africa. And the kind of presentation the researcher has made was really fantabulous. And at the same time, the structure of research was well defined, was well instructed to the researcher exactly how and why, simultaneously what kind of methodology to be adopted, etc. The training was given to the student so that student uh, is able to understand what which topic he had chosen, which methodology he has to follow, and at the same time what kind of outcome is expected as well. But when we are talking about again the ethics in social sciences, the result or outcome which is supposed to be there or to be collected from analysis of data, then finally if our findings are not matching with the data or the objectives or with the hypothesis, sometimes there might be tampering with the data as well. So that again, we have to think seriously whether those data collected tampered by the researcher, by the supervisor, or we can take an example of all the way any particular person who is involved in research activity is good or bad. And here the question which is supposed to be answered by all of us is nothing but the ethics in the social science, whether it is adopted or what. So here it's a when we are choosing the research topic, then we have to frame certain objectives for our research topic, and those objectives are aligned with nothing but we can take an example of all the with either the research title or what exactly research we are going to do in the next 2 years or next 3 years, yeah, whatever. If you're writing the research paper, it might be for the next few months, might be 3 months, 4 months, might be 6 months, or 1 year's period or 1 year's time as well. But what I have observed being researcher or being social scientist, that when any particular person is doing research, at the time of doing research, that the objectives and hypotheses are supposed to be well defined and well structured as well. But some of the students or researcher are simply going for copying and pasting the entire research article, which is freely available on the uh, website as well. We can I can give you some of the example wherein the postgraduate students are concerned, and those who are supposed to do their research specifically for the project, for the 100 marks project as well. But I have seen that in some of the at some of the times that mm, that those research projects are nothing but simply copied as well. So when we are talking about ethics, then the well-defined or well-set rules and regulations are very much essential. Then only we can prevent somebody. Then only we can prevent the researcher for doing the wrong things as well. So research topic selection is essential. So the framing of objectives and hypothesis is very much important. At the same time, there is need to have testing with the different kind of experiments as well. And we also have to have go through, or we need to go through with nothing but analyzing the data as well. So data analyzing is again one of the Hercules tasks, and it is not everybody's cup of tea. Why I'm saying this? It is only because the researcher who has not statistical or mathematical background, it would be very much difficult to analyze those research outcomes. Like we can take an example of like being economics student or economics researcher. We are finding it very difficult if we are going for any like time series data, or if you are going through any kind of empirical data. Suppose, for example, the inflationary trend to be analyzed. That all the way when the data has been released by Central Statistical Office of Government of India, or when any particular data has been availed by the Reserve Bank of India, sometime being ordinary researcher or sometime being the ordinary person, we are always thinking ki inflation is to be seen as 2.5%, 2.7%. But in actual sense, the way petroleum prices are rising, the way diesel prices are rising, CNG prices are rising, LPG prices are rising, it is nothing but there will be a higher rate of inflation than that of data which is given in the concern through the concerned data sources as well. In the later part of my presentation, I have brought some of the questions. Specifically, when the National Sample Survey Organization, NSSO, brought the data stating that we have seen the ever highest unemployment rate since last 4 decades of independence. And when unemployment rate is rising, uh, or employability is constantly declining, what is to be done? What kind of measures to be taken? And being researcher or social scientist, whether we are doing the research on this particular topic, okay, what kind of initiatives to be done or to be taken for increasing the employability, and those research outcomes needed to be testified or needed to be accepted by the implementing bodies or implementing authorities. The social science research in our country or in some other countries also, that the topics which are supposed to be decided and to be determined by the supervisor, by the research committee of the concerned university or the concerned institution as well. But when the funding is given for doing research, either to the research scholars or to the research supervisors, then simultaneously the Institute of National Importance or the highest planning body should have to bring out certain points through which yes, nowadays we need to do the research on like food science, nutrition science, or we can take an example of all the way health sciences, or the poverty elevation or the unemployment program or inflationary trends. These particular topic lists needed to be given to the concerned research center or to the concerned universities. And that could lead to nothing but to bringing out the quality research outcomes from those particular research as well. In the recent times, the university grant commissions as well as the Ministry of Education is coming out with nothing but the reformative kind of initiative, that national education policy, which will also have some drastic changes in the Indian educational scenario in the system. And there, the role of researcher, the role of research, the role of ethics in research in social sciences would be well defined. And simultaneously, the kind of research outcome which are supposed to be brought from the research would be useful for an improvement amongst the society as well. Again, being economic student, I would like to elaborate some of the examples over here. Okay, the research in poverty has brought the Nobel Prize uh, to Abhijit Banerjee as far as the Nobel Prize in economic sciences are concerned. So do we need to have the concept like PAL, that is Poverty Action Lab, and those Poverty Action Lab at similar level, we can have the like COVID-19 Action Lab. Similarly, we can have like Inflation Action Lab, and those initiatives, those programs, those models could bring about the uh, reduction in the inflationary pressure that could lead that could lead to nothing but improvement in the social life of people. The societal aspect could be changed and so on. So while talking about research, why I'm giving all these particular examples, you must be thinking, yes, sir, we know everything. Students should have to go through this particular research. But simultaneously, if there is the monitoring authority, there is the very strong guidelines to be given by the highest authorities, the research or the social science research could lead to enhancement or improvement in the present scenario of socioeconomic conditions. So analyzing the data, as I was discussing, whether that particular analysis to be there in the form of very strong quantitative analysis by adopting strong mathematical and econometric tools and techniques, or whether it is the simple analysis that average we can do and bring out certain findings or conclusion. But it is again necessary that the research which is done through mathematical analysis or econometric analysis, whether it is really that much effective, whether it is really that much important, or what, that question mark is there in our mind as well. So simultaneously, we have to justify that, stating how much is the data sample is been taken, how much is the sample size has been taken, and at the same time, how the data has been analyzed by using different tools as well as techniques as well. By changing a simple tool or single tool or technique could lead to nothing but changing in the final outcome of the research. So when we are talking about all these particular issues, when we are talking about all these particular research aspects, then the role of title, role of research area is essential as well. The report conclusions, which is nothing but the kind of research which is when done, has to be brought certain conclusions as well. And those conclusions are nothing but findings, and findings in the form of either a data analysis to be done in an appropriate manner, and so on as well. There are also certain observations or questions are there in the minds of researcher, and those questions needed to be tackled in the research as well. So this is all about nothing but the scientific method which we are supposed to go through in a systematic manner. And being an ordinary researcher or being a very advanced researcher, we have to go through understanding the terms as well. Again, the question arises in our mind whether the research which is done in India is different than that of research which is done abroad, specifically the European countries or to the American continent as well. And this particular question can be answered by simply having Google search that all the way what ranking we have as far as the international research standards are concerned, whether we are standing appropriately in the international research standard, or it is only the bulk number of research papers and the thesis which is brought in as compared to the research outcomes as well. So when it is the numbers are increasing, not the quality of research, not the research outcomes, then there is a serious question arises to whether the ethical conduct or whether the ethics are followed in the research or not. So what exactly research? What exactly ethics in research is nothing, but it has been defined as the set of rules which regulating our expectations of our own as well as others' behavior is called as nothing but the ethics. Followed by research ethics are nothing but a set of ethical guidelines which guides us on how scientific research should be conducted and disseminated. So it is again essential to understand what ethical guidelines we have as far as the research is concerned. Whether we have very strong, very firm ethical guidelines, as like let us take an example of some of the South Indian universities are firm on are firm on the research scholar who is doing PhD or MPhil has to publish minimum 2 research papers in Scopus indexed journals as well. So very standardized journal, the list of journal which has been given. Or we can also take an example of all the way UGC CARE listed journals. That is either UGC CARE 1, that is the selected journals for UGC CARE 1, and all the rest of the journals, those who are either Scopus indexed or Web of Science indexed, or we can take an example of all the way ABDC listed journals or what. So when we are talking about all these particular journal publication, whether this journal publication is really worth to bring out our research in front of the international fraternity. And if the answer is yes, then of course we have to go for a very strong research, and we have to follow certain ethical guidelines for bringing out our research into the global platform as well. As I was again discussing about nothing but the Scopus Index journal, and those journals are nothing but either Thomson Router journals, or which are having proper kind of citation, and at the same time uh, the journals are nothing but the international repute. But these international reputed journals, to get published in this particular journal is very much difficult. Either it is the time consuming process, or it is nothing but all the way, sometimes it is the gold access, or sometimes it is in the name of open access. The researcher is asked to pay certain amount as well. Let us take an example of one of the journal which is publishing the open access papers. Open access, that is gold access journal, uh, international journal of like IJ, International Journal of Market Technology and Complexity. This particular journal is again Scopus indexed and Q1 first quartile journal, published by MDPI. And uh, last year, one of my friend who is a professor in one of the Gulf universities, that is Abu Dhabi University, we had collaborated for writing a research paper on online learning, online teaching learning. And that particular exercise took almost 6 months to get that particular paper accepted by the journal. And uh, around 6 to 7 rounds of the same corrections or proof uh, was taken place. And when the final acceptance letter received after 6 or 7 months by all of us, then then it was asked that we need to pay around $1,000 for publishing a single research paper. So when I'm talking about $1,000 for publishing a single research paper in international journal, which is Scopus indexed and which is the first quartile journal, open access journal, then $1,000 equivalent to around Indian rupees 73,000 rupees or 74,000 rupees. That was supposed to be shared by all of us. That four authors were there. So whether after working so hard for 6 months that we need to pay for open access journal or not, or if there is any researcher like a PhD scholar or postgraduate MSc economics scholar or PG scholar, will he be in a position to pay that particular amount? And is it not the ethical misconduct? Or when I'm talking about after having that much round, then when it is open access published by paying certain amount registration fees, or what you can call it as APC, that is article processing charges of 1,000 US dollar or 800 US dollar. That depends upon the journal's policies time to time and so on. So when that particular amount is been paid, whether it is ethical or what, isn't it? So in either or way, we can take an example. Yes, when I wanted to keep my research open, that all the way anybody can search my name and can download the research paper, which is easily accessible from online sources, then I need to go for the open access option as well. But if I do not want to pay to the journal, then the journal policy is after paying certain dollars, like $25 for accessing a single paper or downloading a single paper, the journal may charge 25 or 30 US dollar, or might be British pound or euro, whatever the journal policy is there. So that all the way there are different ways wherein uh, we have to justify ourselves whether it is the ethically correct or is it ethically wrong. And being researchers, most of the time what is happening, what do we think, that depends upon our own moralities, depends upon our own thinking. Okay, I may think, no, I need not have to pay 1,000 rupees, 1,000 US dollar for that, and I will publish it only for the same, like protected version. So nobody can see my research work or our research work, only an abstract to be made available to get access to the researchers as well. So the outcome from the research might not be reached to the masses of people, to the maximum people. So there I need to go for open access, or it is the gold access as well. So again, I would like to clear here that now ethics is what, whether I need to pay 70,000 rupees and get it published in open access is ethically misconduct, or my research is good, but the journal do not want it to keep it open to all of us, all of you, and then my research is lying as it is, not used at all for the societal purpose, then will it be that good enough for me or what? So these particular questions needed to be tackled. So the ethics might differing from individual to individual. Again, do not take it either or way. It is only because ethics I am referring with reference to nothing but the journal publication as well. Or otherwise, you can check, no, sir, is that resource person has told to pay 1,000 US dollar is unethical practice. So why I should pay for Scopus Index open access journal, isn't it? So that's what I said. It is varying from person to person as well. Now, research ethics govern the standard of conduct for a scientific researcher, and it is the guidelines for responsibly conducting the research. Now, here again, the question arises: responsibly conducting the research. So, what exactly meaning of responsibly conducting the research? Is it like my research title is fine, my methodology is fine, my analysis is also fine, but uh, due to one or another reason, the research paper which I am writing on the thesis or the PhD dissertation, which is not going to get accepted by any of the international reputed journal as well. So simultaneously, there is need to follow certain guidelines as far as conducting of research, social science research is concerned. Now, the research which is implicating the human subjects or contributors rears a distinctive and multifaceted ethical, legitimate, communal, and administrative concerns as well. So we need to think about all these particular aspects also, whether when we are talking about the ethical um, part in the research activities, then what exactly we have to go through. Then research ethics is unambiguously concerned in the examination of ethical issues, which are appraised when individuals are involved as participants in the study as well. So these all are some of the aspects wherein we can have the general glance about the ethics as well. Now we'll move towards the another part of ethics in social science research. It is the ethical principles of research. The ethical principles of research consist of whether the researchers as well as participants needed to follow certain rules, certain regulations, certain points, certain justifications, and so on, is a part of nothing but ethical principles of research. So either from the point of view of participant, or participant are nothing but the respondents, whether from the point of view of researcher who is writing the research paper, who is writing the research thesis or PhD thesis and so on. So to have ethical principles of researcher from the point of view of participants and researcher, what exactly needed to be there, that there are different points which are given. So from the extreme right side, we can go through that there is needed to have confidentiality as far as the participants are concerned as well. So any researcher who is sending the data collection form Those data collection forms needed to be kept in a very confidential manner as well. That is the part of nothing but the ethics from the point of view of researcher as well. Last week I received one link from the PhD scholar asking about the data on educational advancement and so on. That half the form I read, I did not read the entire form, but still in the very first question, it asked about my personal email ID, then the my own full name, followed by my affiliation, and simultaneously I was asked to provide my mobile number as well. So don't you think this is nothing but very much confidential? Why I should provide my personal details to somebody who may later on uh, reuse or misuse that available data for different kind of research as well. So when we are talking about ethics or ethical principles in research, then being researcher, we have to follow very strong confidentiality as well. In anyhow condition, after the research, the data cannot be used. The data should not be transmitted from the researcher to either another researcher or for another similar kind of research as well, until and unless the permission is to be sought from the concerned respondent as well or participant as well. Privacy is needed to be an integral part as far as ethical part is concerned as well. That privacy in the form, the collected data needed to be kept in a privacy manner as well. That and it is also expected that the data to be used for academic purpose as far as our PhD as well as MPhil thesis or postgraduate research is concerned. But sometimes that data might be revealed or data might be leaked, and that leaked data might trouble us. Like for example, in the Google form, sometimes the information has been asked whether you are PhD, whether you have received any funding, which institute, how much, when did you completed your project, and what were the research outcomes, and so many questions to be asked to the respondents or participant. And by honestly answering those questions by the participants, that it is expected that researcher should keep that particular data in a private manner as well. The another part is nothing but autonomy. Here the autonomy term indicates nothing but researcher will have his own decision what kind of data to be collected and through which manner the data is to be collected as well, and how the data to be used as well, provided there should not be breaching of any the ethical part as far as the research data is concerned. Honesty is very important one as far as the researcher is concerned, or the ethics in research is concerned. Honesty stands here in the research part is nothing. Okay, I have not plagiarized any material from either online sources or from or from copied as it is without citing the material, without seeking the permission from the original author, or when the data is available in the public domain with the copyrighted material, whether the permission has been sought or so on. So researcher should be very much careful as far as these all aspects are concerned, including the honesty as far as the collection of data is concerned as well. Sometimes what happens given collect at the time of collecting the data, if the sample size is around 400, 500, or uh, more than that, sometimes what happens that the random numbers are given, and that randomly the by filling the responses, the data sheet are supposed to be made available or to be analyzed as well. The research outcomes will be there, but that research outcomes may not have the findings or suggestions which are as expected, which are as regular, uh, as the natural outcome was supposed to be there as well. The researcher is also supposed to have ethical part, ethical principle, that is nothing but the responsibility. He should be very much responsible as far as the research is concerned as well. He cannot say ki, yes, that some data, some model I have received from the book. Now that book I do not remember. Now the source or citation I do not remember, and so on as well. So the responsibility is very much essential. Followed by it is nothing but integrity. That all the way, whatever data, whatever writing, thesis writing or research paper writing, which we are doing, is it having an appropriate integrity as well, or integrity in the form of like any particular institution wherein we are associated with, whether that particular institution is given the due credit, or simultaneously from whichever sources the information has been collected, whether it is given the due citation or due importance or due reference, and so on as well. Competency is also the part of ethical principle of research. Then we can have like justice as well as dignity as far as the research is concerned, or ethical part of research is concerned as well. We have a lot more points to be discussed, but I have kept in our mind that all the way in the first session, I would like to go for 7 very, very important points as far as ethical conduct is concerned. And those points, we are supposed to understand what exactly ethical conduct is there as far as social science research is concerned. Now, the another slide clearly speaks about nothing but ethical guidelines for social science research in the form of like, you can easily see the image which is showing 4 question marks, and we have the images which are stating right, wrong, right, wrong, wrong, right, and so on. So while conducting any particular social science research, what ethical guidelines to be followed? Am I right? Am I wrong? Or I may be right, I may be wrong, and so on. So the various points which we are supposed to go through is nothing but the privacy, which has already been discussed, that individual privacy is to be protected when the data is to be sought from or data is to be collected from the various sources. Debriefing is also the part of nothing but ethical guidelines in social science research. It is the use of deception is necessary. Sorry, if the use of deception is important, then participants must be informed of the real nature of research immediately following their participation. All the way any particular data, which already I was discussing, the collected data needed to be informed to the participants. And in fact, I have seen at very lesser time that after collecting the data, that all the way the data sources, the respondents were informed that these all are the findings which I have collected from the your own responses as well. So at the time of collecting the data, we are asking respondents to respond very fastly. But after the data is submitted to us and after our analysis part is over, after our thesis is over, we don't think about the respondents uh, who are who have played a very systematic role by providing the accurate data to us. So it is again important that as far as ethical conduct is concerned or ethical guidelines are concerned, that your research outcome should reach to the respondents. Suppose, for example, I have done research on poverty alleviation programs, and I have collected the data samples of around 1004 families I have surveyed from the entire Thane district. Then all those 1004 families needed to be given the feedback, needed to be given the research outcome, stating that you have responded to my questionnaire, my 6, 7, 8 pages questionnaire. And from that questionnaire, I have made the following suggestions, the following recommendations. Whether that rate tapism to be removed, whether the government mechanism is to be improved, whether there is need to have the literacy or educational awareness amongst the people, and so on. So this is missing from the research, and according to me, it's my personal opinion again. Again, it is again the ethical misconduct. Our research is based upon the research outcome from the data which is given by the respondents. But after our work is done, after our degree is awarded, we don't turn back towards them by giving them the feedback, by giving them the return stating that your research feedback has really brought certain uh, changes to be made in the system and so on. Another part is nothing but the approval, which consists of nothing but all the experiments which is involving the humans must be reviewed by an independent panel for ensuring the potential benefits of the experiments outweigh the risk as well. It is nothing but this point is closely connected with the psychological research. But simultaneously, when we are talking about the social science research, then we have to think very seriously about all these particular points and whether these particular points are supposed to be involved in our research part or what. Here comes the 7 parts which we are supposed to go on in today's lecture, uh, today's session. Okay, all the way, the first part is nothing but the research, society, and ethics. The title of our research is nothing but all the way speaking all about nothing but the ethics in social science research. So when we are talking about ethics in social science research, what exactly base is available for social science research, and what exactly things, what all are things needed to be gone through by the researcher. Let us take an example of very first point, that is the norms and values of research. So what exactly norms are there uh, to conduct or to initiate the research? That is, the researchers are obliged to comply with recognized norms of research ethics. Now here the question may arise in our mind, what exactly recognize research norms or research ethics? Is it the university, or is it the research center which is providing the research norms, or is it the apex body like the University Grant Commission through its notification time to time, warning us time to time, indicating that if plagiarism goes beyond 10%, or if the ethical misconduct is done by the researcher or by the faculties, then it is nothing but the punishable offense. And simultaneously, when we are talking about the again the ethics in the social science research, we have to strongly follow the norms as well as the values of research. But that norms and values of the research are again decide to be decided by the parent body as well. So I don't want to name some of the universities wherein what kind of research norms are available, and simultaneously the institutions, the higher education institutions which are having research centers and so on, how far they are supposed to go on initiating a very strong value-based research or norms-based research as well, either through the UGC or through the ICSSR or through the other apex bodies, those who are involved in providing discipline in research as well. Sorry. Second point is nothing but the freedom of research. What exactly the freedom of research? It is nothing but here the researcher and the research institutions which are responsible for preserving the freedom and independence of the research, especially when the topic is controversial or when strategic or communal consideration impose pressure and constraints on research. Now, in the recent parts, there are various issues happened wherein the country's communal harmony is supposed to be in trouble as well. Any particular, I do not want to get involved into the controversies, but specifically You can take an example of some of the European countries, or you can take an example of some of the Asian countries, wherein whether those research conducted, the controversial research conducted on specific books. In the recent past, the controversy was there on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj book, and that all the way the different opinions given by James Lane and so on. That is historical research actually. But simultaneously, whether the controversial research is the part of nothing but ethical misconduct, or whether it is the freedom of research is to be given to the researcher, that you decide what topic you wanted to research for, or it is the research supervisor who would bring about certain findings from specific areas. But the traditional universities or research institutes, simply we have the research specialization. Like, let us take an example, like being economics student or economics faculty, my specialization is uh, poverty or global poverty. So my research will go on global poverty, but simultaneously, the when I am talking about the poverty in India, whether it is on the basis of the per capita income, whether it is on the basis of the standard of living, whether it is on the basis of the 20-point program, or whatever that 8 or 10 articles which are supposed to be followed, or the nutritious intake of availability with the people and so on. So that when we are talking about research, the research topic has to be selected in such a way that freedom of research to be given, provided if there is any controversial part, then how that controversial part is to be tackled as well. Uh, uh, some, I think 3 4 months back or something, around 1 year back, one of my friend who has done research on the Kashmir issue as well. So all the way when these particular research is there, are available in the national or international platforms, then the chances of getting involved in controversies are there. But our research should be in such a way that it should be supported with a strong or some fundamental research or review of literature done in the past, and simultaneously data driven research, the accurate and exact data which was directly collected from the respondents needed to be made available as well. But sometimes what happen, only random data is been taken, and that random collected data cannot bring or may not bring certain results from the specific topic as well. So it is again the freedom of research. Then we have another point as far as research, society, and ethics. Actually, there are only 4 points for the very first point. It is responsibility of research. What exactly responsibility of research? That is, the responsible research requires freedom from control and constraint. Now you can ask me, sir, you are telling all the way the freedom from control and constraint, but without control by the degree awarding authority, either it is university or research center or autonomous college or private university, whatever it is, then there is the control on research topic by this particular institution as well. It is not a direct control, but simultaneously we can take the research supervisors or research guide are selecting the student, those who are from their own areas as well. But can we have the responsible research which is required to be given the freedom from control and constraint? Suppose, for example, I wanted to study on comparative study of poverty amongst India and Pakistan, or comparative study amongst India and Sri Lanka. So am I allowed to do research, or when I have chosen this particular topic, whether the scope of this particular topic is very vast, or is it possible me to get funding from the concerned university to go to Sri Lanka or to go to Pakistan to collect the data or the live data so that my research would be appropriate and so on as well. So there are, when we are talking about the responsibility of research, the freedom to be given, the freedom to be given from control and certain constraints or limitations, but exactly uh, uh, at what level it is to be given, and what is the checking mechanism or the review mechanism over there. While trust in research requires the exercise of nothing but responsibility by both the researcher as well as the research institute, wherever we are doing our research as well, either it is the university or the college as well. And finally, in the very first part of research society and ethics, it is responsibility of institution, that whichever university or research institution we are working with, there is needed to have the guarantee that research is good and responsible by preventing misconduct and promoting the guidelines for research ethics as well. So it will provide a very strong research outcome from that, any particular research institute. And that research institute with the well set goals, well set objectives through the ethical conduct of research could lead to nothing but bringing about certain changes in the society as well. Let us take an example of poverty alleviation programs or poverty alleviation programs in Maharashtra. So all the way, either it is IRDP or it is EGS or it is Swarna Jayanti Gramin Swarojgar Yojana or it is Manarega, all these particular schemes are really going to get benefited to the student, or has it benefited to all the people all the time, or what? Or whether the employment guarantee scheme has benefited to give employability to the people, at what level, at what extent, and simultaneously whether the employability, whether the standard of living or life expectancy has improved by initiating this particular scheme, needed to be studied in a very systematic manner as well. So this is the very first part wherein the research society and ethics consist of the norms and values, the freedom of research, responsibility of research, and finally, it is the responsibility of the research institutions as well. Another part, it is with respect for individuals as well. So while doing research, what exactly respect is to be given for an individual? First, it is the human dignity. Human dignity stands for nothing but researcher must base their work on a fundamental respect for human dignity as well. Any particular research which has been done, we are talking about social science research as well. So the researcher has to give or has to provide or must base on the work of fundamental respect by giving to the human dignity as well. Then another part, as far as the respect for individuals is concerned, is nothing but the privacy. What exactly privacy is? Again, the researcher must respect the participants' autonomy, integrity, freedom, and right of co-determination. Already, as we discussed about the privacy to be given to the participants or to the respondents, that the respondents will decide whether the data which is sent to them to be responded by them, uh, they may respond to the entire data or they may leave some questions blank as well. So while collecting the data on poverty alleviation programs, I also found that some of the researchers, they do not want to involve in they do not want to get involved in giving answers on certain questions as well. And those questions like suppose Indira Awas Yojana. So when the money comes from Indira Awas Yojana, like 60,000 or 70,000 rupees, whether the Gram Sevak, whether the Sarpanch of the village or any implementing authority used to take, used to ask bribe from you or what? Or are you paying anything in return of getting money for constructing house through Indira Awas Yojana? And simultaneously, they most of them said, no, no, we do not want to reveal the information, and so on. But some of the respondents were so bold that they said, yes, they demanded 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees from us and that is not good as well. That needed to be stopped or prevented as well. So the privacy of researcher is also very important part as far as the ethical guidelines are concerned with respect to the individuals as well. The other part is nothing but duty to inform that any particular researcher, social scientist who is doing research on different social aspects has to provide participants with adequate information about the field of research. Now, already as I said, while preparing the form, data collection form, being research supervisor, we used to write that this particular data to be collected for academic purpose, and after the research work is over, the data is supposed to be erased off, or this kind of instruction we used to write it in the form as well. That is the data collection form as well. So here it is the adequate information, participants with adequate information about the field of research, simultaneously purpose of research. Suppose I'm collecting data on poverty alleviation programs in Maharashtra, isn't it? So what is my purpose of research? Is it academic purpose? Am I collecting the data for the government purpose? Am I collecting the data for giving inputs to the World Bank, that is World Free from Poverty? Or am I giving this particular information to the International Monetary Fund or any other non-government or NGOs for framing certain policies and providing funding at the grassroots level, or the funding to be given to the poor people as well? Simultaneously, who has funded the project? So if I am collecting the data, if the researcher is collecting the data, who has funded the project? Whether the university or the University Grant Commission, or it is the world bodies or international bodies, or it is any NGO or somebody. So if it is funded, then the funding agency's name we need to provide as well. That is a part of our ethical conduct as well. Who will receive access to the information, isn't it? So simultaneously, it is essential to understand all these particular aspects, including intended use of the results. So after collecting data from poverty alleviation, what is my intention? My intention is nothing but to get an academic degree, isn't it? But sometimes the same data can be utilized for presenting research paper, or can be referred as writing the uh, uh, kind of policy draft at micro level. I cannot say at the macro level, because at national level it requires lots of inputs, but still at the grassroots level or at the local level, the model can be prepared, and on the basis of those particular results. At the same time, the consequences of participation in the research projects. So we need to give understanding to the respondents, to the participants, that these all are the inputs which we are going to collect from you, and this is the prime duty of the researcher, without which this would be called as nothing but the ethical misconduct as well. Another is nothing but consent and obligation to notify. The consent and obligation to notify is nothing but at the time of when research project deals with the personal data, the researchers are obliged to inform all the participants or subjects of research, and to obtain their consent through, at the same time, the consent must be freely given, informed, and in an explicit form. So consent is necessary as far as collecting any particular data or research on any particular social science topic as well, or social relevance topic. Either it is for getting the academic degree, or it is for publication of research paper, or any other purposes as well. The another part for ethical guidelines with respect to individuals is confidentiality. We spoke about confidentiality in the earlier slide also, that in general, the researcher or generally researcher must process data which is acquired about personal matters confidentially. Like as I said, my name, my mobile number, or my salary, monthly salary. If that data is been asked by the researcher and in a frequent manner, I gave that particular data to the researcher. But later on, if it is misused, then it is called as nothing but ethical misconduct as well. Personal data must normally be de-identified as well. So here it is nothing but sometime what happened, the researcher, I don't understand ki research supervisor specifically that while preparing the questions that Google form especially, that the researcher used to put asterisk mark, that is the answer needed to be mandatorily given, otherwise it won't proceed further, which means that the respondent compulsorily has to reply for the answer as well. Not necessary that I may not be in a position to provide my salary or my email ID or whatever the other information or confidential information which is required by the researcher. While publication and dissemination of the research material must normally be anonymized as well. And in certain situations, researchers must nonetheless balance confidentiality and obligation to notify. So it is essential that confidentiality has to be properly or appropriately maintained by the researcher as well. And if there is any kind of breach of confidentiality, it would be really troublesome. And in fact, it is nothing but a kind of ethical misconduct as well, and it is not good for a researcher. Another part for individual uh, ethical guidelines are concerned is nothing but the limited reuse, which means identifiable personal data collected for a specific research purpose cannot be automatically be used for other research. Which means that suppose I have collected data on again poverty, and that data was collected from the 1,000 households. The same 1,000 households which have given their information in the Excel sheet, and that Excel sheet data I can use it for some other purpose, like to make the comparative study, or like to write the research paper or something. So it should not happen. And if it is happening, then it is the ethical misconduct, or else it needed to be informed to the concerned respondents. Yes, now your data or information which we are going to collect is to be reused as well, or to be used for another purpose as well. Still, I remember that again, I was working with one of the professor from the Gulf universities as well. So we prepared a Google form to collect the data from the schools available in the Gulf region as well. And the educational impact was supposed to be studied as well. But when we prepared all those particular data and information, that while having Google Meet, we we discussed a lot on different issues, specifically regarding to the confidentiality, regarding to the consent to be taken, regarding the limited reuse, and not to take any personal data as well, specifically the mobile number and so on, isn't it? In some of the countries, it is very much it is very much strict, and in fact, in India also we can take it is nothing but any kind of breach of our own privacy or private information could lead to nothing but penalizing by misusing the information, by going through the ethical misconduct as well. So researcher has a very strong ethical conduct, stating that yes, he is following certain norms, certain regulations, and those norms and regulations are not going to harm to the respondents and so on. In continuation with the individual ethical conduct is nothing but storage of personal data. That the data which is collected and data which is related to identifiable individuals must be stored responsibly. And such data must not be stored any longer than what is necessary to achieve the objective for which it was collected. But if we can ask ourselves that in confidentiality, whether the collected data I have discarded or not. So most of the people, in fact, all of us will say, no, the collected data is still lying in my drive, or collected data is still lying in the Gmail as well. So it is again the part of nothing but the ethical misconduct, wherein we are not supposed to store the personal data of the respondents as well. Followed by this, responsibility for avoiding any harm as well. Researchers are responsible for ensuring that participants are not exposed to serious physical harm or other severe or unreasonable strain as a result of the research which was conducted either in social science or it is the natural science kind of research as well, other than social science research as well. So it is essential that uh, there should not be any harm as far as the respondents are concerned, as far as the participants are concerned in any other way. Because if you're going to put this obligation on respondents, then we would be in certainly trouble as well. If it is the academic data, we can say fine, but still, if it is the data which is used for some other purpose, then it would be really problematic as well. The standard journals, and in fact, almost all the international journals are asking for the conflict of interest. Now, here again, the conflict of interest, we can take an example, and simultaneously, the we can take an example of kind of undertaking that you have not harmed any animal or you have not destructed, you have not gone through any particular activity which has destructed the live beings and so on as well. So these all are part of nothing but the part of research, and it is expected that researchers should follow that. In respect for third parties, like researchers should consider and anticipate the effects on third parties that are not directly included in the research activity as well. Followed by the protection of children, that children and adolescents who take part in research are particularly entitled to protection as well. Specifically, again, as we are talking about social science research, so all the way revealing the name, revealing the age, or revealing the date of birth, or the personal information which is lying, which we have collected for analyzing any educational aspects and so on, needed to have very cautiously to be used by the researcher. And in absence of that, it could lead to nothing but creating the troublesome situation as well. Privacy and family, respect for privacy and family life. It indicates that the researcher must respect individuals, privacy, and family life. That participants are entitled to check whether confidential information about them is made available to others. So it is again essential to understand that no private information to be revealed until and unless it is permitted at a certain level by the respondents as well. And specifically being a good researcher, we should follow the ethical conduct by not coming into any particular, not facing any particular trouble or difficulty as far as the mm, confidential information is concerned. The another part is nothing but respect for the values and motives of others. That is, being researcher, we must not ascribe irrational or unworthy motives to participants without providing convincing documentation and justification. We must show respect for the values and views of research participants, not least when they differ from those generally accepted by society at large. So again, it is essential that the researcher need to respect the values of respondents in an appropriate manner. Another is the respect for the posthumous reputation. It is necessary to act with care when conducting research on deceased persons. So most of the times, what is happening, any research which we are conducting, like any social scientist, very famous social scientist, and whose writings we are citing or writings we are referring, and the information we are writing about them has to be double or triply checked as far as the deceased persons are concerned, because if something goes wrong, if the data or the information which is wrongly represented in your research paper or thesis, it could be uh, landing you in very big trouble as well. So to come out from this particular problem, we must not uh, fall into the controversy of any deceased person's information or the data which is available. Then defining the roles and responsibilities. It is essential that the researcher is responsible for explaining to the participants about limitations. In fact, in the research paper or in fact in the dissertation, being researcher or research guide, we used to ask the student to write the research limitations as well, isn't it? At the same time, expectations and requirements which are associated with the role as a researcher. So this is needed to be kept in our mind that all the way there is need to define the roles and responsibilities uh, by the researcher in a very systematic manner as well. We'll move towards third aspects of the ethical conduct as far as social science research is concerned. It is with respect for the groups and institutions. That is respect for private interest, which indicates, which shows that researchers must respect the legitimate reasons which private companies, interest organizations, etc., may have for not wanting information about themselves, their members, or their plans to be published as well. So any research which we are doing on any particular aspects, there we have to be very much or systematically thinking about the whether the data or information to be revealed as far as private companies are concerned, their interest is concerned, and so on as well. Then another is nothing but respect for public administration. That is, there are some public bodies, and those public bodies should make themselves available for research into different activities as well. So either we can take an example of research institutes, which we have already discussed, or we can take an example of all the way like the apex bodies which are regulating or controlling over the higher and technical education. Either it is AICTE, or we can take an example of UGC, or we can take an example of all the way the BCI, or it is the Medical Council of India, or it is the PCI, Pharmaceutical Council of India, and so on. So all the way we can take an example of these public bodies should make themselves available for research into different activities as well, so that those activities could lead to nothing but improvement in the society through the fundamental research, through the basic research, and those basic research could lead to suggesting certain uh, modification or changes in different schemes. Again, I would come to the point called as poverty alleviation programs. So when the government is spending a lot on poverty alleviation programs, then what exactly needed, that there should be one scheme that could improve the life of poor people, that is poverty driven people, in a systematic manner. uh, whether there is need to apply the concept which is called as nothing but the UBS. UBS stands for like the universal basic income, that instead of providing funding to all the poor people, that through Manarega or through some other schemes, that government should monthly provide the UBS, that is universal basic income, to the families, as like, let's take just for example, like 5,000 rupees per month to be given to each family, instead of giving subsidy on cylinder, cooking gas cylinder, instead of giving subsidy on electricity, instead of giving subsidy on some other schemes and so on as well. So if this is going to happen, they automatically the uh, rest of the schemes are supposed to be inoperative as well, and simultaneously that could lead to nothing but systematically reaching money to the unreached and resulting into might be good outcome from the research as well. The respect for the vulnerable groups as well. The researcher, any particular researcher who is following the ethical conduct, needed to respect for vulnerable groups as well. That he need to have a special responsibility to respect the interest of vulnerable groups throughout the entire research process. Now, here the vulnerable groups could be like women, like children, like physically challenged, or what we can say ki, differently abled person, or we can take an example of all the way uh, the other kind of people, those who are deprived from the mainstream, and there these particular vulnerable groups are supposed to be given special privilege or special responsibility or to respect, by keeping in mind the interest of this vulnerable group people as well throughout the research activity. Other is nothing but the preservation of cultural monuments and remains. That researcher is needed to respect the need to preserve all types of cultural monuments and remains as well. That while doing any social science research or any other research, a researcher has to keep in his or her mind that there is need to have proper prioritization for cultural monuments as well. Research on other cultures. While doing research on other culture, the researcher need to keep in her mind some ethical conduct as well. I gave you example of all the way the book which is written by James Lane, that is specifically on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and whether uh, the culture is appropriately understood, whether the culture is appropriately gained by the author, or what the sources been used, and if it is the authentic sources, what exactly authentic sources and so on. So again, I'll come to the point, because these all are points are nothing but a controversial point, wherein we have to be very much cautious. We have to be very much serious about doing research on these particular issues as well. So, a particular requirement of research on other cultures or others' culture is that there ought to be dialogue with representatives of the culture being studied as well. So, very strong dialogue needed to be done, and that is to every strata of society needed to be interviewed or needed to be appropriately taken into consideration. Then only it would be useful. Otherwise, the research may maybe in a big trouble as well. But sometime what is happening, this kind of faulty research been done, and that could lead to nothing but controversies to become famous in the either it is print media or it is nothing but the electronic media as well. But being economics researcher or being social scientist, we need to take care. That is up to one's own ideology or one's own ethical conduct, whether you should be involved in this kind of research or not. Limits on cultural recognition, that researchers must strike a balance between recognizing cultural differences and recognizing other fundamental values and general human rights. So while doing research, we have to respect the other cultures, the other cultures which we are studying, or some of the fundamental values as well as the human rights. And if we are violating any particular human rights, and that would be really troublesome as well. So it should not happen. After finishing the third part, we have very important one, fourth part, that is the research community. Here the actual interesting part is starting, because though the explanation is there up to the part that is A to F, we have reached up to D. That is, this D part is nothing but the research community. What exactly research community? Is it the research scientist? Is it the social scientist? Is it the researcher? Is it the, we can take an example of all the way author or writer and so on. So it has been classified into different parts, and all those aspects you can see in different colors. It has been mentioned ki when we are talking about the research community, as far as the we can take an example of all the way ethical conduct is concerned. The very first point is nothing but co-authorship, that researchers must observe good publication practice, respect the contributions of other researchers, and observe recognized standards of authorships and cooperation. Now, if you can see some of the standard journals, that suppose there are three authors or four authors are available. So the role of each co-author is mentioned, like drafting of research paper, XYZ. Or we can take an example of all the way data collection and analysis by ABC. Or we can take an example all the way that like preparation of graphs, charts, etc. That PQR or something. So the role and responsibility of each and every co-author has to be there as well. So that if the paper is shared by three authors, four authors, five authors, whatever, so those role is essential to be understood by the readers or by the reading community in a systematic manner. After going through co-authorship, that as far as ethical conduct is concerned, there is need to have good citation practice. Now the question may arise in our mind, what exactly citation is? Is it Google citation, or it is Scopus citation, or it is the Web of Science citation, or it is any other citation methods or methodologies we have globally accepted as well? Here the ethical misconduct starts, stating that you are writing your own paper and it is getting published into, let's take an example of International Journal of Market Technology and Complexity, that is IJOTMTC, and it is the standard journal, suppose MDPICA, but there is requirement to write at least 35 or 40 citations as well. 40 papers minimum needed to be cited, including the review of literature as well. So sometimes it is, there is availability of self-citation of the research paper. So while writing the research paper, if your previous paper is exactly relevant to education or educational pedagogy, then simply we can have we can cite that particular paper as well. Sometime how the citation is been misused, that I can tell you that suppose A and B are friends, so A will cite all the articles of B and B will cite all the articles of A, so that the research score, that all the way the citation score of Google Scholar, or it is the Scopus index, or we can take an example of H index or I index or I10 index, will go on improving or increasing. And if it is so, it is called as nothing but the misconduct. It is called as nothing but ethical misconduct in research. So while doing any particular citation, taking any particular citation, we have to be very much cautious. But most of the times what is happening, that research scholars or postgraduate students, they are unaware about all these particular citation aspects as well. But simultaneously, nowadays that a publication industry is the multi-billionaire, multi-billion dollar industry. I'll come to the economics part again. I use a term called as multi-billion dollar industry, publication industry. Either it is e-publication or it is we can take an example of all the way print publication. The topper journal or topmost journal like Nature Science or Springer or Wiley, or we can take an example of Sage Publications, MDPI, and so on. But simultaneously, these all publications, whether the researcher is taking in a very positive way as far as the ethical conduct is concerned, and so on. And if it is not, it is really problematic as well. The another part after citation practice is nothing but plagiarism. Now there is a separate PPT which is there on plagiarism. Okay, all the way it is nothing but simply copy pasting. It is nothing but simply adopting somebody's work without citing, without referring, or without taking due permission from the previous author as well. Though it is openly available in the Google search engine as well. One day I was conversing with my friend, and he literally copied most of the material from Google, and and just we were discussing. I, along with my another friend, was also there. So when we were discussing on that particular issue, he said, "Ki nothing wrong that." I have taken all the data, all the material which is there, which was published prior to 1991. And before 1991, there was no such rules and regulations, no plagiarism, no policy or something he was telling. And he said, no, no, my work won't come under plagiarism policy. So here the question may arise in our mind, in the minds of researcher or students or the faculties. Is it called as plagiarism? If yes, then why? And if it is not, then why? And so on. So we need to have serious look at plagiarism. And the University Grant Commission has time to time brought the notification for improvement in uh, the way of plagiarism rising in the academic field as well. So it is unacceptable and constitutes a serious breach of recognized norms of research ethics. So when we are talking about research ethics, it is not giving any place to plagiarism as well, isn't it? Including self-plagiarism. Sometimes what is happening, my own research paper of poverty in India or in Maharashtra, I am writing, I'm taking some of the paragraphs, some of the lines, and then it has been seen in the plagiar checker that there is a certain kind of plagiarism, like 30% or 25 or 10%. But when I checked, it is taking back me to my own research paper, isn't it? But again, it is nothing but the kind of plagiarism. So we should be very much cautious as far as plagiarism is concerned as well. Again, the standard journals, they are following about we can take an example of all the way. They are following the either Turnitin software or Urkun software, or it is nothing but X plugin checker, or compulsorily it is some journals are asking less than 5%, less than 2%, or some are also allowing up to 10%, and so on as well. But plagiarism is again debatable part. Let us take an example. Why I'm asking debatable part, that all the way I think a few months back I downloaded one research paper written by a very famous global university professor from that university, and out of curiosity, just I downloaded the paper and I checked the plagiarism with my paid version of plagiar checker, and I was shocked when I found that plagiarism is around 60%. Uh, then then it is again important that whether his self plagiarism is there, whether this he has made citation and still the plagiarism is been showing, and by merely showing plagiarism 30% or 25% is uh, to be directly penalized, or what, that is the question mark. But simultaneously there are some other aspects also that we must keep in our mind as well. So in ethical conduct, plagiarism plays a systematic role. Scientific integrity is another part, wherein which means nothing but both the researcher as well as the research institutions must promote norms for a good scientific practice. So what exactly good scientific practice? That the data to be collected properly, that data to be analyzed systematically, that the mathematical tools to be applied systematically, that graphs and charts are properly inserted and properly drawn, and so on. So it is an obligation on researcher as well as the research institution to follow the ethical conduct through scientific integrity also. The another part is nothing but the data sharing. That all the way research material should be made available to other researcher for secondary data analysis and further use as well. At some of the places, in some of the journals, you will find it out that yes, the data sharing is available, or the data files are also available. Sometimes the hyperlinks are given. Sometimes the data tables are given at the last of the research paper, and we can access how the data got collected, how many sample size was used, and so on. So when we are following all those particular things, it is essential that this particular data can be used as data sharing by another person. Again, when I've done the research on poverty, the same data could be utilized by another person as a secondary source of data, and those available data tables could be again uh, uh, analyzed through their own interpretation, through their own tools as well as techniques as well. Yes. Uh, Another part as far as research community is concerned consists of the impartiality. What exactly impartiality? It is nothing but both the researcher and the research institutions are bound to report and consider possible conflicts of interest and their roles as well. Followed by the relations with colleagues. That is, the researcher or the research should be conducted in compliance with the norms of research ethics. For example, with regard to openness, fairness, and self-criticism theory, contributing to research cultures that promote good research. We can have Another aspect of the research community is nothing but the student supervisor relationship. Here, this particular point is very much essential to understand for the PG supervisors or PhD or research supervisors, that supervisors are obliged to act in the student's best interest and not to take advantage of their dependence. This applies to academic results and personal matters as well. So all the way, sometime it has been seen that the student, PhD student or research student is doing research, and he is supposed to put the name of the research supervisor, and without doing or by doing a very small contribution to the research paper, he or she is supposed to be the part of that research paper as well. But that also is supposed to be the part of nothing but ethical misconduct as well, that we should be very much take care. Otherwise, appropriate guidance needed to be given to our student as well. Responsibilities of supervisor and project managers, that the research supervisors or PhD guides, as well as any research project which is going on, must assume the responsibility for the research ethics, the problems faced by the students or the research project team. This is all about the fourth part, that is the research community. We will move towards another part. It is nothing but the commissioned research, that is E part. We have different types of different aspects which are also available at the part E. That will be going through one by one. I'll finish it up, then I'll stop. So we have commissioned research. Shukla sir?
Yes, sir.
So shall I continue or?
Sir, actually, our session should stop at 5, but you can take 10 minutes more, sir.
10 minutes. Okay. I'll take.
You can give half an hour break. So after that, you can have a second.
Okay, sure. So it is nothing, but we are supposed to continue with the second last part that I'll be finishing within 10 minutes. That all the way the commissioned research. What exactly commissioned research? We have different aspects of commissioned research as far as ethical conduct is concerned. The very first is different types of research we have. That is both the researcher as well as research institutions needed to ensure that the funding and organization of research is not in conflict with the norms of open, reliable, and independent research. As I've already stated in the previous slides, that after completion of research paper, it has been always written that there is no conflict of interest as well, either between the researchers or between the research institute or researcher or about the data collection or about the funding agency or XYZ. So all these particular assurance needed to be given so that any particular publication which is going in the later part needed to be appropriately what we can take appropriately monitored or appropriately checked. The another part is nothing but commissioned research consists of nothing but the both public as well as private commissioners have legitimate right to set the parameters for research assignments as long as those parameters does not conflict with the other requirements made with regards to the research activities. However, that does not exempt researchers and research institutions from their share of the responsibility for the agreements they sign with the commissioners as well. So it is essential that any particular research which has been undertaken either at the research center or at the research institute, or we can take an example of NGO level or at the global platform or any uh, charitable institution which is also providing funding to the researcher, there it is essential that the conflict of interest and at the same time the responsibilities needed to be shared as well. And in absence of that, it might possible that there could be difficulty, or there could be problematic situation as far as the ethical misconduct is concerned. The third part is nothing but responsibility of researchers in big projects. That there are, as I said already, the World Bank, IMF, Asian Development Bank, or different countries of the world are providing strong funding for poverty alleviation, for socio-economic upliftment, and so on. So here it is what exactly the ethical conduct when these kind of research is to be undertaken, that the responsibility of researcher in large projects, that researchers, those who are taking part in the large research projects, big research project, have a shared responsibility for those projects. They should not say the responsibility is supposed to be limited, and it should be clear that how an individual researcher has contributed to a research project as well. So already, as we have discussed about that, any particular individual researcher need to have a very strong or fundamental idea about the research activities, either it is the academic research or it is the research which has been funded by external sources, or it has been funded by any other agencies, and so on. Independence and conflict of interest. Repeatedly, we have discussed about this particular point, that the researcher as well as research institutions should require to maintain the independence in relations to their principles as well. That is sharing of funding resources. Sometimes any particular project which is initiated by any research institutes, and the research director has proposed a certain amount, like 1 lakh rupees is the amount which is sanctioned for any particular project. So all the way it needed to be shared amongst the institution, that the prefixed formula might be 60-40, might be 50-50, or whatever. So that all the way there should not be any kind of conflict of interest. And you might have seen, okay, all the way any funding source which we are using for our research, we have to cite that research, that source as well. Suppose, for example, funding from Reserve Bank of India, or the funding which is received from the government of India, or any particular ministry, or the World Bank, and so on. So it is the part of nothing but the ethics in research, or ethical conduct in the research. Transparency in research funding is also the part of it's also the part of nothing but the we can take an example of all the way uh, ethics which are supposed to be followed in the form of researcher as well as the research institutions needed to have an appropriate methodology to make publicly known that who is the funding authority, or which funding agency has provided a certain amount or money to the project as well. And the another part is nothing but the rights and duties to publish. Again, we have discussed multiple times as far as rights and duties to publish, that knowledge is a collective good, and as a general rule, all results should be published. And this is also important to enable the results to be critically examined or reused as well. So the available research which has been done on any socio-economic topic needed to be discussed, needed to be examined, and needed to be reused as well. So reused in the sense that the available table or data sources can be used mm, by somebody else or third person for nothing but uh, for bringing certain outcomes from the research aspect. Next is nothing but presentation and use of result as well. It is a part of the sixth point, and both researcher as well as the funding agencies have the responsible researcher as well as the research institute have a responsibility to prevent the research results from being presented in a misleading manner. And it is unethical to delimit the subject of the research by keeping in view to by producing particularly desirable results or to present research results in an intentionally skewed manner. So it is again necessary that we cannot manipulate the result, which are the result outcome from the data analysis, either the primary or secondary data, or the observations, or the interview, or it is the empirical analysis, and so on. So presentation and use of result. Now it is the last we would like to go for the last part of the first half of presentation. It is nothing but a dissemination of research. Now dissemination as an academic responsibility states that the researchers as well as the research institutions are obliged to disseminate scientific knowledge to a broader audience outside the research community. So you cannot keep it closed, the research, and you have to keep it open to the rest of the world as far as your research is concerned as well. And that research could be utilized uh, for the available to be made available in the public domain and to be enjoyed by other people as well. The requirements for individuals and institutions, that research institutions, either university or research centers, must create conditions for extensive and broad dissemination of research characterized by high quality and relevance. It is very much required. Followed by interdisciplinary discourse and public deliberations. It is also important part of dissemination of research in the recent times that it emerges from the interaction between specialists in various academic disciplines and the public discourse. Followed by participation in public debate. Any particular socio-economic or social research which is being done needed to be brought at the public platform for discussion. But here the word is used called as nothing but a debate as well. So here the researcher should contribute scientific argument to the public debate. And those scientific arguments are nothing but based upon either objectives or hypotheses, or the kind of model which has been put forward, a mathematical model, or the econometric model which has been put forwarded for betterment of society, and that could be utilized for formulating certain policies for the entire country as well, or entire region. So the researcher should express themselves properly, clearly, in order to avoid the tendentious interpretation of research result. So research results can be exactly interpreted by the concerned researcher only. And if it has been brought in the public domain, then only it is possible. Otherwise, there might be misinterpretation for the result as well. So either it is the data misinterpretation might be there, or it is the outcome which has been brought, and when the scope, the limitations, etc., is not appropriately stated in the research, then it could lead to nothing but misinterpretation, and that could be part of nothing but the again ethical misconduct as well. So ethically, it is not correct that the available research is wrongly spread or wrongly given amongst the public as well. Second last point is accountability in dissemination. The requirement of accountability is equally stringent in dissemination as in publication. That is, researcher may share hypotheses, theories, models, preliminary findings with the public in the course of a project or research funding, research findings, but must be cautious about presenting preliminary result as a final conclusion. So being a researcher, we must take all these particular precautions, and uh, failing to which it could lead to nothing but creating troublesome situation. The last point is nothing but reporting results to participants. As I discussed in the previous slides also, I have put question marks, 3 question marks. Reporting results to participants stands for the researchers having a special obligation to research results back to the participants in a comprehensible and acceptable manner. As I said already, whether after collecting the data, after bringing out the final outcome or producing the PhD degree, whether it is been informed to the respondents or not. Most of the times, in fact, it is 90+% of time you can say that it has been not informed to the respondents as well. We can take an example of either it is PhD thesis, MPhil thesis, or the minor research project, major research projects, and many more, wherein once the data is collected, once our work is done, we are stopped. We are thinking, no, now the work, now my part has been done, so I don't want to inform to the participants as well. But don't you think this is again the ethical misconduct? Yes, of course, that if you are a good researcher and if in the later part also repeatedly you wanted to collect the data from the respondents, it might possible that you can request those respondents to send information, and they will also faithfully send information very quickly, or otherwise they will think very seriously, no, this person is not worthy at all, this person is not kind of trustable at all, so not to send the data or not to send the information in an appropriate manner to him or to her as well. So being a researcher, we have to have a very strong ethical part as far as research paper is concerned, research project is concerned, research degrees are concerned, and so on. And in absence of that, it would be really troublesome. I think the first half of presentation is over here. That is the ethics in social science research, and the remaining part we'll discuss, including the question answer or any discussions on the first half we'll have in the later part as well, after the break as well. That is politics of research.
Yes, sir. So I request all the participants to hold their questions because we are running late. So uh, thank you, sir, for the first session. It's 5:20 in my laptop. So exactly after say half an hour, I'd say we can meet at 5:45. Is it okay with you, sir?
Okay, no problem.
Dear participants, I request you to join the session at 5:45. So the link will remain same. Okay, I will just pause the recording and we can join the same link for the session.
Okay, fine, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
And welcome back to the second session of the title Ethics in Social Science Research and the Politics of Research. The last session we left at the point wherein the ethics in social science research was over, except the interaction session or question answer session. So I'm requesting, if anyone of you is having any question, let me know. Otherwise, we'll proceed further, because the remaining part, the politics of research, is very limited in nature. So I would like to have more interaction for the first session, which is been over by 5 o'clock, 5:20.
నువ్వు ఇట్లా తీసుకోవాలంటే నేను వేరే షోరూమ్స్ కన్నా తీసుకోబోదును కదా మరి లక్ష్య కాడికి.
Hello.
స్పాంటేనియస్ మూవ్మెంట్ కదా మీది ఏదైనా.
Hello. Yes, dear participants, is there any question? Hello.
Participants, if you have any question, you can ask. No, sir. They are writing in the chat box.
Okay, I think if there is no question, then I'll continue with the rest of the presentation.
Yes,
But
sir.
as-
Go ahead.
Okay, but already as I said, it is the most of the presentation consists of the ethics and social science, ethics in social science research, and very lesser presentation because politics of research or social science research is having the limited scope. So that's what I was expecting, that interaction from the participants. Now let it. Just I'll have again recap of the first session, what we have done as far as ethics in social science research is concerned. That in the early slides, we have gone through understanding the meaning of social science, followed by the importance of social science research, different branches of social science, followed by scientific methods to be adopted in the social science research. Then it is the definitions or meaning of ethics in social sciences, followed by ethical principles of social science research, having multiple number of points, but we restricted to some around 10 to 12 points. Followed by it is the different ethical guidelines for social science research. And very importantly, the points which started from the subpoints A to subpoint F, that is research, society, and ethics, is the first part. Respect for individuals through ethics is the second part. Third part is the respect for groups and institution. Followed by fourth part, as I said, it is very important one. And from the point of view of research supervisor or researcher, it is essential to understand what exactly the meaning of authorship and co-authorship. And for the point of view of quality publication, how we can go on sharing the responsibility as far as publication is concerned, and how good publication uh, in the reputed uh, journal or international journal will have the contributory co-authorship citation, specifically like the drafting, the preparation of draft, the final touch, language editing, or research methodology. Then it is analytical skills, graphs, tables, and simultaneously the findings part, and so on. So the research community consists of various points that we have discussed already. Good citation practice, plagiarism. I spoke enoughly on plagiarism part, but again, uh, we can have another explanation for plagiarism, because the meaning of plagiarism, the definition, and the recent times, how far the plagiarism has been uh, frequently used in most of the developing countries, and how far the developed countries have put the strong restrictions on uh, the plagiarism. And in fact, it is not accepted any academic writing uh, which is plagiarized, which is not accepted by the degree awarding authorities as well as the publication section, that is journals, or we can take an example of all the way newspapers or magazines and so on as well. So plagiarism is also essential to be understood, because when there is mm, as far as the problem of the ethical part is concerned, and plagiarism plays very important role. Scientific integrity is there, then data sharing also we have discussed. then impartiality, followed by relation with colleagues as far as the research outcome is concerned, then student supervisor relationship, and so on. So that was all about D part. Followed by E part is consist of the commissioned research, or it is the kind of incentivized research which is given to the institution and simultaneously to the researcher as well. Then the last part consists of nothing but dissemination of research, that we have already discussed about various aspects of dissemination of research, specifically the academic responsibility, different requirements for individuals and institutions, and so on. And the last slide, if you can remember, that is reporting the results to the participants, that already how far that any researcher or investigator can provide all those information or research results from wherever or whichever section the information is collected. Now we'll come to the another part, which is also very important one, that is the politics of research as well. It is the upcoming concept that how far the politics is going on as far as uh, research is concerned, that why the research is there restricted, or why the research is only in the hands of academic institutions and so on. Why not we can take an example of all the way the other agencies like NGOs can bring out the research, and those research outcomes could be evaluated for the research degrees and so on. But still we are following the traditional way. But simultaneously it is what we can consider it is the politics of research, wherein different points we will discuss as far as the politics and research is concerned. It is nothing but research which is concerned with how research is influenced by human issues, and those human issues are unrelated to the research topics. Already, as I said, let us take an example of all the way the Kashmir issue. Let us take an example of all the way we can take an example of Maharashtra and Karnataka border issue, or we can take an example of all the way the issues, the social issues which are related to some religious concepts, some we can take an example of all the way some cultural or lingual aspects, wherein the research is either not promoted due to the some political agendas and so on. Now, to brief about again the politics of research, we can have the best example that the Indian population, which is the second largest population in all over the world, and rising population is a serious issue of concern. At the same time, the strata of population which is available in the religious form. Let us take an example of the population of Hindus, or the population of Islam, or population of other religious communities, followed by the category-wise population, that all the way the number of people, the number of population which belongs to the other backward class, or the number of population which belongs to the scheduled caste, or the number of population which belongs to scheduled tribes. So here it is the term politics comes in research, that the research needed to be brought in, wherein the as like the available population of certain community needed to be given the specific amount of resources, or allocation of resources has to be there as far as the population of those concerned religious people are concerned, or those particular category people are concerned as well. So here it is what politics is going on. Suppose at the state level or at the center level, if any particular commission has been appointed, or if any particular researcher is, or any particular committee has been appointed and the report has been submitted, so that research report may not be implemented, or sometime it is, there might be restrictions on, we can take an example of all the way, uh, uh, the bringing out the result of exactly how much is the population belongs to. Let us take an example of other backward classes or scheduled caste, and in proportion to that, how far monetary benefit or the scheme allocation to be given to the individuals as well. So the politics of research, it is generally differs from the subject to subject, differs from stream to stream. Or we can take an example of all the way, some social issues, some of the cultural issues are always and always prevented, that it is not taken at the portal or taken at the front level, so that there should not be any particular difficult situation in the economy or in the country. Now, the politics of research consists of or covers the wide range of topics already, as I said, but the funding is likely its most distinctive focus, which means if I wanted to study about the OBC population, again, I'll come on that particular point, that I wanted to count the OBC population and the socioeconomic benefits given to the OBCs, either reservation in reservation in the college admissions, school admissions, or academic purpose, or it is in job reservation and so on. So all the way, if I'm going to, or if somebody is going to do research on that, from where they will get the funding, or is there any possibility that any particular institution of higher education will take up this particular issue, that okay, we will count the population and we will suggest the recommendation, yes, this particular portion of say part of our population is still deprived from getting the benefit as well.
Hello,
And
Vilas.
here the hello.
Hello, yeah, Vilas sir.
Huh?
Sorry to interrupt you,
Huh?
but Shilke Santosh Bhavan sir is asking certain question in the chat box.
Okay.
So I think we should entertain the question at the end of the session, or you would you like to answer in the middle also? Because there are so many questions he has asked in the chat box.
Achha, he has asked so many questions. Okay, no problem, sir, because we have enough time also. Or otherwise, you tell me what should be done.
It depends on you, sir. So
Achha.
if you are comfortable in answering those questions right here, then it's okay with me.
Achha, but this, I think this questions, how to identify use journal for social science, it must be for the session 1. Okay. Okay, I'll answer all those questions, but I think we'll take it at the last. So at what time should we start the question answer, that you can tell me?
6:45, 6:50, we can start the question answer session.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I'll finish it up this presentation, because we have less number of this thing presentation for this particular subtopic, and then we have more number of questions. Okay.
Okay, so I'll ask all the participants to ask these questions at the end of the session.
Yes. So it is nothing but the wide range of topics are supposed to be there, but funding is likely to be most limited in nature as well. I think one day I was again discussing with one of my friend who is who is there in the Indian Police Services, and just out of curiosity, I asked him, any particular government that uh, either it is state government or union government that that is there for suppose 5 years, but there is the survey, continuous survey or evaluation which has been done by the department, that they have specific wing to collect the data or information, that whether the present ruling party or present government will be sustained or continued for the next time, or they will be elected or not. That kind of data the special wing is also collecting. That actually I did not know this is also happening at their level. So The research has been there at their level also, but it is not available in the public domain कि हाँ ठीक है ऐसा भी होता है कि this kind of research is done as well. Or in the recent past, the discussions went on like if you have heard about Prashant Kishore, at all the way the political analyst or is a political strategist, and how far any particular political party will get mileage, specifically in the states like Delhi, or we can take an example of all the way some of the regional political parties, or later on the national also, got benefited with his strategies, that how far the political analyst by doing research could bring out the certain changes in the political system. It was very difficult to predict that in the region like, or in the state like Delhi, there would be, other than the Congress or other than BJP, there would be another political party will have will have its government as well. So it is nothing but the predictions. It is the kind of research which was done by political analysts and strategic thinkers in the political science, those who are very much aware about the psychology of people, the social strata of the situation, and then by using certain strategies, they are in a position that yes, the present ruling party will be in power, or how many seats they can enjoy, or they can get it from either assembly elections or it is the parliamentary elections, and so on as well. So, or otherwise, there are also some news channels, those who are bringing some uh, opinion polls. You might have heard about opinion polls. That opinion polls are nothing but again the research outcome which is done in the field of political science, and sometime how far politics has been done in the through the research that we can take, that in the opinion polls or in some of the like news media or channels, it has been repeatedly said yes, this party will have this number of seats and this party will be losing the seats and so on. So the psychology or the morale of the voters sometime is either supposed to be boosted or it is supposed to be decreased also. So what we can consider, it is nothing but the politics of research, in which area research to be done, whether it will be benefiting to the certain political party or not, or the political strategist like suppose XYZ person, or the group which will responsible, which will be giving an assurance or a kind of insights that yes, there would be kind of benefits of this particular political party would be getting. Uh, in the recent times, that the research, like everything else, has become complicated. And at the time of, we can take an example of getting the degree, either it is postgraduate degree or it is, we can take an example of the research degrees, then we are supposed to follow certain rules and regulations. And while doing all those particular research, again, we have to keep in our mind whether that particular research will be certainly bringing out certain results, means we will be getting the degree or not, or whether there will be any kind of problematic situation like the plagiarism, or like the academic misconduct, which we discussed in the earlier slides, will it happen, or what would be the outcome? That is very important to be studied as far as the politics of research is concerned. There is also curiosity, which is the secondary concern, and those who might change the balance are strictly prohibited as far as this aspect is concerned. No one would care about the politics of research if it was done well and equitably. But we need to talk about why research isn't working and how to solve it. And this framework is nothing but it is an ideal for it as well. The universities and professional bodies, already as I said, either it is the state universities, central universities, or it is the professional bodies, which act as the nothing but the restricting agencies for guiding research into acceptable channels as well. So here again the politics comes all the way. What university tells, what the professional bodies tells, that only research we have to do. So do we have any other option to move further? Yes, I wanted to study on any particular technical or critical issue, and irrespective of availability of research supervisor, am I able to do my research independently or by taking some virtual guidance or some other by using some other method, I could be able to do complete my research. So it is essential that from this point of view also, that why the professional bodies, why the conventional uh, 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 institutions or universities are always and always stating, you know, this is what the method you have to compulsorily follow, isn't it? Why there is necessity to have postgraduate degree to get into the PhDs or research degrees after having like qualifications such as chartered accountancy, qualifications such as we can take an example of law degree or any other professional qualification and some 10 or 15 years of industry experience. Is there any lateral entry to get into the PhDs or the research degrees, which is to be easily available for the ordinary person or to the industrialist or to the what we can say uh, an individual as well. So all the way, these all are points wherein we can say, yes, there is always a kind of politics available in research as well. Actually, I have limited the scope of this particular topic because there are various controversial issues also in the politics of research. And already, as I mentioned about either OBC population or it is nothing but some of the issues such as Kashmir issue and so on. So all the way, these topics when we are discussing, it would be a kind of risk whether it is fine or is it the proper platform to discuss about all these particular issues or not. I have brought three important aspects as far as the politics and research is concerned as well. That in the previous slide, it has been shown that we are asked to choose the topic, whichever topic which is available with the research supervisor or with the university, with the aim, with the scope of the concerned university or institute as well. Then, if the freedom is given to the researcher, the outcome might be very much different as well. Or there are some of the issues, there are some of the points wherein if it is allowed to the researcher to go for the systematic research or systematized research, it might possible that that research could bring about the social change, that research could bring about the economic upliftment of the people. Let us take an example of all the way oil companies fund research that proves environmental impact is negligible, that green solution don't work. Trees and animals are lousy at funding, which means that all the way it is been done by some of the companies, oil companies, or example is taken as oil companies, that the environmental impact is very less on the people as well, on the environment as well. But simultaneously, that could lead to nothing but water pollution, that could lead to nothing but all the way uh, uh, the lots of hazardous problem as far as the living creatures are concerned as well. So that studies or that research may not be funded by oil companies as well, isn't it? Or in fact, the oil companies will give funding to those projects which are very much helpful or which are very much useful. That will state that oil companies are bringing about negligible or a very less amount of damage to the ecosystem or to the environmental part as well. So uh, there is politics, isn't it? Or there is politics in research. Now, being researcher, we should have to think seriously about that. Okay, all the way some when the hazardous chemicals are coming out from the refineries or from the oil companies, what exactly measures needed to be done, or what exactly what kind of corporate social responsibility these companies are doing, whether there is the huge penalty on the oil companies which is to be levied by the government, that any particular environmental impact which you are doing, you have to compensate for that as well. But instead of that, these particular oil companies are minting money. That economics point of view, they are earning huge profit as in millions of rupees they are earning through selling the crudes or the crude oil as well, or the final petroleum or diesel products as well. So it is clearly stating, okay, we must have the research environment wherein the researchers to be given freedom to choose the topic, the researchers to get funding from the agencies, independent agencies, the NGOs, and those fundings could lead to nothing but actual repercussions on the ecosystem, on the vegetation, on the environmental damage, or human beings, and so on. And if this is to be done, we can say, no, there is no politics in research. So this example of oil companies is clearly stating that there is politics in research as well. So this particular point I stuck. That's what I brought in. Otherwise, we can have a multiple number of examples over there as well. Those research could bring about the changes in society. Another, after oil companies, we have the pharmaceutical companies or pharma companies as well. And these pharma companies are compelling medical research to focus on patented substances which can generate revenue. All the way, these pharmaceutical companies can generate huge amount of revenue to apply or to adopt nothing but the patented substances as well. So any particular product, which is any particular medicine which is patented, any chemical which has been patented, but naturally it will be costly. And definitely there is the new term which we are supposed to use. I think in the recent past it has been developed. It is nothing but the term called as the generic medicine and so on, which means the general ordinary public also should be able to have the affordable medicine as well. That is the ingredients or content which is there in the costly medicine, the branded medicine will have the same application in the non-branded medicine as well. But there is a ignorance, or there is not an advertisement done by those products, either in the print media or in the electronic media. So we are not that much friendly with those products as well. But in fact, the effectiveness of those products are similar to the what we can say, the registered companies, the so-called the branded companies as well. So don't you think there is also the politics which is going on in the research of pharma companies or pharmaceutical companies? And those political, or in economics, in our economic terms, we used to call it as the monopoly by the pharma companies as well. India is one of the biggest pharmaceutical hub in all over the world. In spite of that, the medicines are costly. I cannot say costlier, but still there is scope to reduce the prices of pharma products as well. And that could lead to nothing but easy access of medicines and life-saving drugs to all of us as well. However, the excellent nutrition, exercise, and healthy living in general can help us 90% of our illness. That all the way, no need to take the very costly life-saving drugs as well. But if the research to be done on yoga, on naturopathy, on like homeopathy, and that could lead to nothing but not to use any paracetamol, not to use any particular painkillers when we are having nutritious diet as well, when we are having regular exercise, when we are having healthy living as well. And by practicing these healthy livings, by having extensive research at the institutes, at the universities, that could lead to nothing but bringing about the societal change. But again, I would like to term or coin the term here, it is nothing but there is research in politics or politics and research, either or way we can take that the pharma companies are doing the politics by not availing these kind of research outcomes to the ordinary person as well. So here the NGOs, here the government is trying its level best to popularize those products. And we can take an example of all the way generic medicine, or we can take an example of how far the meditation and yoga could lead to avoiding uh, the consumption of pharmaceutical products. And if it is been done, if the very strong research has been done by some of the universities, the social outcome, the economic outcome, and overall the we can take an example of all the way whatever expenses we are making on the medicines, that could be reduced as well. So this kind of politics needed to be done. Now you can also take an example that all the way the politics has been done in the research of like making investment into the defense as well. Like why we need to spend like 5% of our GDP on defense equipments? Or is there any foresight of war in the near future? Is there any foresight of strengthening the country, or what exactly? So the defense and strategic part, wherein if the researchers are allowed, if the researchers are funded through the government agencies, non-government agencies, or we can take an example of all the way like the local bodies also, that could lead to nothing but reducing the excessive burden on economy, spending on the defense as well as other activities as well. So if it is that expenditure to be reduced, which means we will have excessive GDP or national income which is to be left with us, and that could be utilized for spending on welfare activities, spending on some other activities as well. So there are numerous fields wherein we can explore, or we can say yes, social issues are available, economic issues are available, medical issues already we have discussed, pharmaceutical companies, or in educational institutions also. Can we have research outcome through which we can bring out like the the social inequality can be reduced, or simultaneously by giving proper opportunities, or by implementing certain schemes and policies, how far the intellectual level of students, undergraduate students, postgraduate students can be increased, and that could lead to getting the job, or improvement in the intellectual property in a very systematic manner. And as there is a very famous law in economics, that is every supply creates its own demand, given by Professor J.B. Say. So simultaneously, if the educated people are more in the economy, the supply of educated people are more in the economy, automatically they will be absorbed in the market or in the economy, not only in the domestically, but also it could be at the global platform as well. So all the way, it is essential to understand the complications of politics in research, or research in how far the politics in research plays an important role by not showing all these particular negative aspects of these companies or multinational companies before the ordinary public, before the government, We can also take an example wherein the projects which were socially harmful, or the project which created the environmental damage, like Enron power project. Later on, though, it was renamed as the whole power project and so on. But simultaneously, these power plants or these thermal power plants, how far they will damage the economy, and what exactly research to be done on that, or whether the wind energy is very much cheap and very much what we can take an example of all the way useful to solve the problem of the frequent power cuts or load shedding problem and so on. Or very importantly, how the research is to be done in the e-waste management or electronic waste, how it is to be reduced at very extensive level, and what methods and methodologies to be adopted at local level, national level, or at the global level. And simultaneously, those particular methodologies would bring about the prosperity amongst the societies as well. So there the politics persists, there the politics available amongst the people, and that is to be society or country, and that is to be solved. Another part is nothing but tobacco business having unlimited funds to pay their university shields to downpay tobacco's risk. Cancer patients, on the other hand, lacks the availability of resources, lacks both the funds and organization. So the lesser number of research is been done. Though we are having number of research which is going on in the as far as the impact, negative impact of consumption of tobacco, that is on the cigarette package. It has been written that tobacco is injurious to health or something. All those pictures are also pasted, but still the consumption of tobacco has been not reduced as expected, and that is leading to creating lots of physical issues to the people, those who consume the tobacco as well. So research needed to be done. Why don't we bring about the economics of tobacco research, or uh, how to uh, how to minimize the effect of tobacco consumption through scientific way or through social way, that all the way the methodologies to be brought in and so on. But it is essential to understand from where the funding will come. That tobacco business industry is again the multi-millionaire industry, and they will fund to those projects which are benefiting to them as well, isn't it? So at the same time, when the other, like some health related issues are there, therein the government should take the initiative. In fact, it is taking. Or we can take an example of role of NGOs, or we can take an example of educational institutions by initiating this kind of research, which is useful in the society, very much helpful to improve the position as well. After that, we have the governments as well as, already as I said, that is arms and ammunition, specifically the manufacturing. There is an investment of lots of money, and those money is being spent on the weapons, the different techniques, the technologies, and so on. And whether there is the vested interest in fueling wars by destabilizing regimes and creating terrorists, that all the way there are some terrorist organizations, there are some anti-social elements which are creating trouble or which are creating problematic situations. So the research needed to be done on that, and simultaneously those research could lead to nothing, but we have to have reduce the war expenditure, reduce the expenditure on arms manufacturing, and that social science research could lead to nothing but the war to be prevented as well, as Russia and Ukraine war is still uh, at its peak, and simultaneously the whole world is thinking about that, what is going to happen, whether there would be again the Third World War or what, or something. These kind of discussions are going on, or in the media also we are listening this kind of news as well. So the politics in research is nothing but the concept wherein we can take an example of all the way some of the issues which are deliberately ignored, deliberately not taken up by different agencies. I do not want to name that whether any specific government led by a specific political party, but still, if we wanted to have the specific social outcome or the social returns in a systematic manner, it could lead to nothing but what we can say is the world will be free from poverty, the world will be free from various socio-economic issues, or world will be free from hunger and so on as well. So social science research should lead to uh, bringing out about the prosperity to the entire world as well. And we need to follow certain rules and regulations, specifically the ethics and social in social sciences. And by adopting all those ethics, it could be possible that we can we can reach up to the very good position as far as the global ranking in the research is concerned. Either it is a QS ranking, or we can take an example of research ranking of educational institutions, or the individual researcher ranking, which is based upon nothing but the number of citations, the number of research papers which are published in the international journals, which are globally indexed. I do not want to name only limited number of indexes or indexing, but still there are number of indexing website wherein the data is being saved as well, and we can have the easy access of all those if it is been available in the open platform. Now, as I said already, the examples of politics and research is or research in politics is nothing but Mr. Prashant Kishore, and all the way it is nothing but the political strategist who has brought in certain changes in the Indian political system through the certain plans, through the certain policies and so on. I also discussed about the data which was revealed by National Sample Survey Office or organization on unemployment, that ever highest rate of unemployment went on in the country in the recent past. So why unemployment is increasing? Why don't we have the curbing menace for rising unemployment? Why don't we have the rising employment opportunities? Though it is not there in the public sector or private sector, what is the role of self-employment? What is the role of the entrepreneurship? And all those could lead to nothing but bringing these specific social science outcome through the research as well. We also discussed about data on poverty, that the global data available on poverty or the Indian data available on poverty, that either $1.25 a day given by the World Bank, or it has been increased standard of $1.90 a day as far as poverty line is concerned, or it is $2.5 a day. It's what the differentiated parameter, differentiated guideline, which is given by the international body like the World Bank as well. So data on poverty could be also analyzed. Then again, when we are calling any particular country as poor country or underdeveloped country, on what ground? So whether there is any politics that stating by declaring that the standard which has been improved from $1.90 a day to $2.5 a day could lead to drastic increase in the number of poverty prone people, specifically in India, that it could go for like 15 to 18% or 20% of Indian population will be the BPL population as well. And by showing the higher number of BPL population in the world, what exactly politics to be played at the international level and so on. That is again the serious issue of concern or the research area wherein we can have discussion also. Then the specific data on national income is also an example as far as the politics is concerned in social science research or the research in politics as well. That the national income statistics or national income data, which is available for 93, 94 prices, 2007 prices, 2013-14 prices, or it is the current prices or it is the base prices. So there are different parameters available with the government for declaring its GDP, for declaring its purchasing power parity and so on as well. So there is also hidden politics by the government as well, by any particular government. I do not want to name again the specific government, but still some of the governments, they are using the data statistics on national income as the current price or it is on the base price. Sometime it has been also been stated that the year should be the normal year and that normal year price index to be taken for deciding about the national income as well. So we can have research, we can have discussion on this particular point through the politics, which is also there because it is differentiated. I use the term that there is politics in mm, the availability of data on national income. If you can search some of the data statistics, you can easily find it out. In the recent past, the COVID-19 data labs were also initiated. That is nothing but to provide the either the number statistics, key how many people are getting infected and what is the speed of spreading COVID-19, or how we can prevent by adopting certain econometric analysis and so on. So these all are examples. In fact, more than that also we can give or we can specify on, but uh, that's what I wanted to convey. And this is all about nothing but politics in social science research. So in today's session, we have gone through understanding the ethics in social science research as well as the politics in politics of research as well. And I tried my level best to convince all of you as far as social science research is meaning, its importance, its branches, then the different techniques, followed by 7 points as far as social science research, as far as ethics are concerned, and with examples. And finally, we have gone through the politics of research. To understand the politics of research, we have we have also discussed various examples as well. So that's it at my end. Thank you very much, the Mahatma Knight Degree College principal and the entire organizing team for giving me this opportunity. Now, before ending the session, I would like to have some of the questions if participants wanted to ask.
Yeah, participants, you can ask your questions. First, we will take the question which was there in the chat box. Hello.
Yes, sir. Just a minute. I'll open the chat. Or otherwise, is it possible to read, sir? I've opened it actually.
Yes, sir. I'll read it for you, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, first question which has been asked by Mr. Santosh Baban Shelke, sir, is how to identify UGC journals for the social sciences. Does UGC approved journals accept an Indian language or English language is mandatory? And
okay.
First, these are the first two questions.
Okay, so I'll answer for that. Thank you, Dr. Shelke, sir, for asking this question. That your question is related to UGC listed journals, that identification of UGC listed journals specifically for social sciences. If you can go through the UGC care listed journals that is available on University Grant Commission website, or you can also serve the University of Pune website, wherein the window will open up and that will state that two category of journals. One is the UGC care listed one journal, and the other is UGC care listed journal category 2. Now the differentiate between UGC care 1 and 2 is nothing but UGC care listed one journal refers to the empowered committee of University Grant Commission identified some journals nationally as well as globally, and that list is time to time getting updated. Uh, and it has been seen that there is frequent changes in the listed journals as well, as far as care list 1 is concerned as well. If you can see last month also, you will find it out that some of the journals are out from the list as well. Now in continuation with your question, after identifying UGC journal, already as I said that by going through the website, you can easily identify by logging in through your official email ID or through your email ID or Gmail as well. Now the does UGC approved journals accept an Indian languages or English language is mandatory? Yes, of course, both the languages it has been available. The journals which are there for specific languages like for Bangla language also journal is there, for Marathi language journal is there, Hindi also there. Some of the journals, those are Tamil language journals are also there. So in their own language, they are accepting only their regional languages as well. But it has been said that it has been seen that there is constant increase in the clone journals as well, or what we can say the duplicate kind of journals as well, which are using the same name of the journal, and it has been printing all the things, and you send your email ID through your email ID, you can correspond with them and you will get an acceptance, and by paying merely something 3,000 or 4,000, your paper can be published. But again, we have to mind it because that is nothing but the clone journal, or that is the duplicate journal. As far as my research goes, when I serve some of the websites of the concerned journals, I found the journals are clone journal. And another part is most of the language journals, as you asked about, those journals are not online. They are nothing but the offline journals as well, which means you need to send the hard copy to the journal through post, and then after getting that hard copy through proper reviews, 2 or 3, might be more than that also, they are sending the corrections, and that is through your what we can say the postal communication only, not through email. And after correcting, after 6 or 8 months only, your paper will be published. So very less number of journals which are giving the direct link for publication as far as website is concerned. But there are many journals, those who are not having their website as well, and those who are university journals as well. Still I remember, I think last year or something, one of my friend again called me and he asked me about one of the journal which was originated from West Bengal. I forgot the name of that journal, but it is the language journal. And he sent me the mobile number of the concerned editor also, and the details, and the UGC care listed one certificate, something he sent. Then I asked him whether you have verified that journal. Then simply he said, no, sir, I have not verified. So what I did is I went to the UGC website and I logged in through my email ID, and I checked the journal. It was clearly written that the journal is the print journal, not online journal. And e-ISSN was not there. That print ISSN was there. So I checked the name of the editor of that journal. From internet, I found out the name of the journal. He was the university professor of some West Bengal university, I forgot the name, Calcutta University or some other university. Then I called him and I asked him, sir, one of my friend is asking his query about publication of paper in your journal. So he said, no, sir, we are not entertaining any query on phone, and we are not accepting any articles online or email. Hard copy only to be sent, and it will be published only in Bangla language or their own language as well, or their own regional language as well. So don't you think there is these kind of fraudulent practices are also available? So we have to be very much careful. And as my topic was the ethics in social science research, in fact, we should not fall in trap of this particular person as well. So as you asked, does UGC approved journals accept an Indian languages? Yes, of course, it has been accepted. Like you can write in Marathi, if I'm not mistaken, or English language is mandatory. English language is not mandatory. Those journals are having the scope of English language. Like you can take an example of Economic and Political Weekly. So there, I think you cannot send your article in Marathi language. You have to send it in English. Is it fine, sir? Santosh, sir?
Yes, Santosh sir. Hello. Hello, Santosh sir, are you here? I think he got disconnected. Yeah. Any other participants wants to ask any question? Hello.
Sir, can I?
Yeah, madam. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Uh, Sir, I want to know that nowadays there's a lot of fad, moving around that, your papers will be published in UGC journals when you're presenting it in a conference by paying a certain amount of money.
Okay.
Sir, would you throw some light on this part, please?
Sure, madam. What's your name, ma'am?
My name is Nandini Katti from K.S. Shroff College. Sir.
Okay, Nandini, madam. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, madam, for the question. Now, some educational institutions or colleges or some private universities or some state universities also bringing about some conferences, and in the conferences they are writing that your papers to be published in Scopus Index Journal, or it is the UGC Care Listed Journal. But the authenticity of the concerned journal needed to be checked by the researcher as well. Suppose, for example, like in the recent past, there was a conference held at Solapur University, and the journal proceedings were supposed to be there. The conference proceedings were supposed to be there in the journal called as International Journal of Mechanical Engineering. And it was a special issue to be brought in by the concerned journal as well. So when I went through the journal website homepage, the Scopus homepage, as I'm having my professional this thing access to the Scopus, I opened that and I checked that the journal is very much there in the Scopus. Then I checked about the website, wherein website also the papers which were published in the regular issues were listed in the Scopus. The author name I copied and I pasted in the Scopus database. I found that it is genuine. So, madam, your question is all about whether these conferences are genuine or what. Of course, some of the conferences are genuine, provided it is your responsibility or it is the responsibility of the researcher who is sending the paper to be published in the conference or any particular place. And if you find that authenticity of that particular journal is not there, better to withdraw your paper, or better not to send. Again, one more example I can give you. Recently, one college, I don't know the name of that college. It is bringing the issue called one journal called as Agenda something. And when I checked in the UGC Care Listed one, that Agenda journal was removed from the UGC Care Listed journal. if I was not mistaken. That time I checked. And then I asked the organizer or convener, sir, it is not there in the care listed, and you have already mentioned. So he said, no, sir, it is previously care listed journal and people are ready to publish. So the researcher are having ignorance, or researcher are not that much having that much knowledge how to check the authenticity of the concerned journal. In fact, the University Grant Commission has brought certain notification time to time, and by going through the UGC website or University of Pune, the logging in into the care listed journals, we can easily find it out whether the journal is there or not. So it is up to you, madam, whether you are satisfied with the concerned journal, which is there in the scopus, which is there in the care listed or not, and accordingly you can publish.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Harsh, sir.
Yeah. Anyone else wants to ask anything?
I think some questions are still lying in the chat box.
So a few questions are there. Like there is one question which I found irrelevant. Like, why can't we write thesis without review of literature? So I don't think that is you need to answer this.
Okay. Okay.
And because review of literature is an integral part of research. So can we get some free plagiarism tools in this regard? The people are confused about plagiarism checking, sir. So
according to, as per my knowledge, there is no such free tools available, and those providing the free access, it is risky because the data cannot be erased from their what we can say, the cloud data. Means the data which has been retrieved by the concerned app or concerned website is still lying over there, and then the risk is that it could be catched by next time you are checking through Urkund, or next time you are checking through like Turnitin, or it is Xplagia checker and so on. So I think it is better to avoid going through getting the free plagiarism checker or software. Instead of that, we can go through like that small plagia checker is there. So paragraph wise we can go through, and then I think finally we can bring out our research as well.
thank you, sir. Yeah, and as participants, if you have any queries, please ask. Santosh sir, I think he is not here, so because he has asked so many things. Santosh sir, I think I can see you. Santosh Bhavan Shelke sir. Hello. I don't know whether it is. मराठी मध्ये बोला सर, काही प्रॉब्लेम नाही सर. हॅलो
सरांचा इथे नेटवर्कचा प्रॉब्लेम आहे. सर तुम्ही चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये लिहा सर, तुम्हाला काही प्रॉब्लेम तुम्हाला विचारायचं असेल तर. शेळके सर, चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये लिहा, तुमचा आवाज येत नाही.
सरांनी हे मराठीमध्ये लिहिलं, मराठीमध्ये त्यांना आन्सर हवंय का सर?
सर ऍक्च्युली ही इज नॉट ऑडिबल सर.
कनेक्टिव्हिटी नाही आहे सर त्यांची.
ओके.
शेळके सर, इफ यू तुम्हाला जर वाटत असेल तर तुम्ही टाईप करा चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये, सर आन्सर करतील. तुमचं कनेक्टिव्हिटी नाही वाटत आहे मला.
Somebody has written how long should be our thesis in respect of pages. Now that question I find it irrelevant. It is because it varies from university, isn't it? Followed by, if we give citation clearly, how it can be copy of material. Okay, but giving the citation may not be the thing, what you can say, it's a plagiarism, but still it will be detected in the plagiarism tool as well.
Gaikar sir, may I?
Sir.
Sir, actually I checked my thesis for the plagiarism in Turnitin, but there are some means like my area of study is Kalyan and Dombivli. So I did study station wise, station 1, station 2, station 3, station 4. Okay. Then I sent my document for the plagiarism checking. That time this station 1, station 2, station 3, station 4, it is repeatedly used in every table and every result and conclusion. Because I am describing this station with respect to my parameters. Okay. So that plagiarism checker is also taking this station 1, station 2, station 3 as a plagiarized. Second thing is, though I cited various researchers in my review of literature, and even I have given in the bibliography also, and even in the review of literature also. Then also, even I changed their statement. Then also it is considered as a plagiarism. How it is? And how to minimize this? I'm not.
To minimize, I can suggest you one tool, that is, have you heard about Quillbot? QUIL, I'll tell you. I'll write in the chat box.
ऍक्च्युली माझं 7%च आलं, पण सर तरी सुद्धा मी म्हणतो की एवढं करून सुद्धा कसं काही होऊ शकतं असं.
नाही, पण ते कदाचित तुमचे रिसर्च पेपर्स वगैरे त्याच्याशी रिलेटेड असतील, त्याच्यामुळे मग ते डिटेक्ट झालं असेल.
हा, आणि सर आमचं कसं आहे, माझं सायन्स बॅकग्राऊंड असल्यामुळे आम्ही जे सायंटिफिक टर्मिनॉलॉजी जसे कॅल्शियम कार्बोनेट आहे, कार्बन डायऑक्साईड आहे, ऑक्सिजन आहे, केमिकल ऑक्सिजन कॉमन आहे ना, त्याला चेंज नाही करू शकत.
बरोबर आहे.
हा, तरी ते कन्सिडर करते त्याच्यामध्ये,
ते येणार त्याच्यामध्ये. बरोबर.
हा.
मग त्यांना मला नाही वाटत 7% and it is permissible, then no problem, you can go ahead. I sent in the chat box, sir.
Sir,
Sir.
link sir.
Is there any question, sir? Shukla sir.
हॅलो सर, तुम्ही लिंक टाकली की त्याची?
हा हा.
त्याचं हे नाव सांगितलं तर बरं होईल सर, म्हणजे शोधेन लिंक.
QUIL BOT, Quillbot. That is systematically paraphrasing your work, provided you have to check it very seriously, because some words are like the similar words are taken, but may not be relevant to your thesis, may not be relevant to your work.
Okay, sir.
But this is good, means good paraphrasing too.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions, participants? Yeah. If you have any other questions, please let us know. Otherwise, we will end the session. I request all the participants to switch on their videos so we can take a screenshot for today's session. I request all the participants to switch on their videos.
Sir, I am not able to, because still the problem is there.
I can understand.
Otherwise, I'll just exit from the meeting. Otherwise,
No, sir. So, Tushar sir, I think I'll just go ahead with the formal vote of thanks. Research ethics, the topic which is given to sir, it's a very vast topic, because nowadays, sir, I have published one paper because and it was a clone journal, so I can understand the pain after publishing a hard, too much time we give for a paper, and after if it is published in a clone journal, the pain which a researcher goes through is
yes.
immense. So and you have covered, so nicely you have covered this topic. So on the behalf of Mahatma Education Society's Mahatma Knight Degree College, our principal Eknath Zarekar, our course coordinator Tushar Pawar sir, and the entire team, I sincerely thank you for taking this session on the research ethics, and giving the fruitful information to our participants, and especially about journals, we are too much confused that where to publish, because people are claiming, even on my Facebook account, sir, I can see so many people are contacting me and they are just giving the promises that the paper will be published in the Scopus Index. So that is something where we really need to work hard. And thank you, sir, for giving such a insight about this topic. Uh, yeah. So, sir, officially, I think we can end this meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, I am thankful to you actually. Now I have become the family member of your Mahatma Education Society. Anytime any webinar is there, I have been called by you people. Special thanks to Principal Gaikar sir and Professor Shukla, Harsh sir, and Professor Pawar sir, who is in constantly in touch with me, taking follow up. Okay, today I took casual leave from my college because it was not possible to take both the assignments simultaneously.
Our
So thank you
pleasure,
very
sir.
much.
Our pleasure.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank
all
you,
the
sir.
participants. Yeah.
We
Thank
end the sir, requested to give the feedback. Okay, we will share the feedback link in the group. So kindly provide feedback in the group only. Thank you.
Thank you.